Explorer stumbles on a tribe about to BBQ, an envoy girl, and brings the fury. The cockpit glowed an ominous red, every surface pulsing with frantic warning lights. Turbulence rocked the shuttle with gut-churning violence, tossing Marcus against his harness. Sirens shrieked in his ears, nearly drowning the computer's grim monotone. Critical system failure. Survival odds, minimal. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, his breath sharp and steady, old instincts kicking in where panic threatened. Reroute all available power to descent thrusters and thermal shields, he barked. The shuttle groaned in protest, hull plating creaking as the engines gave one last, desperate thrust. But gravity had its grip. Outside the viewport, a blur of jade-green foliage rushed up to meet him. Branches whipped against the hull. The shuttle punched through the canopy, snapping limbs like brittle bones, before it slammed into the ground with a sickening crunch. Marcus's head snapped back. Blackness washed over him. When he came to, the air was thick with the stench of scorched electronics and something acrid. Fuel, maybe. Marcus coughed, tasting blood, and wiped a warm trickle from his cheek. The vessel was finished, hull torn jagged, engine silent, and the distress beacon stuttering its faint, hopeless signal. He assessed the damage quickly, years of training making the process automatic. No power, no hope of flight, little time. Marcus grabbed the essentials, a battered survival kit, the water filter, a handful of protein bars, the compact blaster, multi-tool, and a dose of painkillers. He crammed them into his field pack, shouldered it, and forced open the hatch. Muggy, unfamiliar air rushed in, thick as soup, tinged with the scent of alien blossoms and damp earth. He staggered out, boots sinking slightly into the loamy ground. Two pale suns glared down from a sky the color of faded amethyst, and every step under the planet's heavy gravity felt like wading through syrup. He tapped his scanner, watching the green pulse sweep the landscape. A thin, promising line appeared to the north, a water source. "Let's see if luck's still with me," he muttered, voice hoarse. He pushed through the dense, blue-leafed brush, the blades tough and waxy, resisting every movement. Sweat crawled down his spine. He sliced at the undergrowth with his multi-tool, careful to keep the scanner's blinking guidance in sight. A flock of iridescent insects scattered as he emerged onto a narrow stream, its banks lined with smooth violet stones. Marcus knelt, dipping the water filter, when movement across the stream caught his eye. Instincts flared. He dropped low, blaster drawn, finger steady on the trigger. 4 figures stepped into view, tall and imposing. Their slate-gray skin gleamed in the twin sunlight, bodies streaked with swirling patterns of ochre paint. Bone jewelry clattered at their throats and wrists. Their faces were sharp, alien, neither hostile nor welcoming, just hungry, wary, assessing. They spoke in a language Marcus's translator couldn't process. A rapid series of clicks and deep rolling growls that seemed to vibrate in his chest. He stayed hidden, heart pounding, as the group stalked downstream. When they disappeared into the foliage, curiosity and caution warred inside him. But he needed to know about the locals, about this world's dangers. Marcus slipped from cover, shadowing their steps as quietly as the heavy gravity allowed. The trees parted ahead, revealing a village clustered around a clearing. Huts woven from enormous leaves and pale vines formed a loose circle, smoke curling from stone-ringed fires. Dozens of the aliens gathered, their bodies painted and adorned for something ceremonial. In the center stood a broad, weathered stone platform, the focus of all eyes. A figure was bound atop it, smaller, lithe, with striped fur, black-tipped ears pinned flat in terror, and a bushy tail wrapped around trembling legs. Her eyes glowed a deep, electric blue even at a distance, filled with pleading and fear. The chanting grew, a hypnotic cadence that rose and fell like a tide. A tribal leader, resplendent in a cloak of feathers and bone, stepped forward. He raised a blade carved from ivory white bone, the crowd's voices swelling in anticipation. Marcus's mind raced. He spotted a cluster of resin jars stacked near the platform, their contents volatile and fragrant. He leveled his blaster, thumbed the charge to high, and fired twice in rapid succession. A roar of green fire erupted, blasting the jars apart. The shockwave toppled two of the warriors, sent the crowd scrambling. Marcus sprinted through the chaos, ignoring the shouts, and vaulted onto the platform. He knelt at the captive's side, slashing through her bonds with his multi-tool. She shrank from him at first, then saw the determination in his eyes and the outstretched hand. Up close, her features were striking, delicate, angular, with a fine muzzle, wild mane streaked with silver, and those luminous eyes wide with uncertainty. "Go," Marcus urged, voice low but fierce. Together, they dashed from the altar, weaving through the confusion. Spears whistled past, shouts chased them into the tangled forest. The girl led, her movements lithe and sure despite her trembling, Marcus following with heavy, stumbling steps. They ran until their legs gave out, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. Marcus slumped beneath the tangled roots of a massive tree, lungs burning, every muscle screaming. He barely noticed the girl approach until she knelt beside him, her touch tentative. She brushed his forehead with striped fingers, her touch soft and electric. A tingling warmth spread through his skin, pain dissolving into nothing. He blinked at her, stunned. "Thanks," he managed, voice thick with exhaustion and awe. She tapped her chest, eyes earnest. "Sira," he nodded, finding a shaky smile. "Marcus." Night crept in, the jungle lighting up with shimmering blues and greens, plants pulsing softly in the gloom. Marcus's scanner beeped, revealing a shallow cave tucked beneath a ridge. Together they slipped inside, settling close but wary, hearts still pounding, the sounds of the alien night swirling outside. For now, uneasy allies, united by necessity, shadowed by uncertainty, but alive. Morning light filtered through the thick canopy, dappling Sira's fur with shifting gold. Her black-tipped ears twitched, tracking Marcus as he shifted in his sleep, wincing at the ache in his ribs. She crouched nearby, tail curled around her knees, eyes narrowed with cautious interest. Marcus sat up, groaning softly, and met her gaze with a crooked, grateful smile. "You have a way with injuries," he said, rubbing his side. Sira considered him for a moment, then approached. Her fingers hovered above his ribs, hesitant. With a reserved grace, she pressed her striped hand gently to his skin. A subtle heat radiated through him, tingling along bone and muscle. The pain ebbed, leaving only a dull throb. "Thanks," Marcus breathed, surprise and gratitude mingling in his voice. She offered no reply, only a curt nod, retreating a pace, as if wary of being thanked too warmly. After a quick scan of the surroundings, his scanner blinking a slow, reassuring green, Marcus packed up their meager supplies. Sira stood, stretching languidly, her wild mane catching glimmers of sunlight. With an unspoken understanding, they set off toward the site of the wreck, moving through the undergrowth in companionable silence. The forest pressed in, vines tangling overhead, blue-leafed branches scraping Marcus's jacket. Each step felt heavy, the planet's gravity pulling at his limbs. Sira moved with easy confidence, barely disturbing the mossy ground. He envied her effortless stride, but refused to let her see his struggle. Near a patch of ferns, Marcus paused. He searched the undergrowth, gathering a sturdy branch and a shard of shuttle panel. With quick, practiced motions, he bound them together with cord from his kit, fashioning a crude spear. Sira watched, tail flicking in bemusement. "You make weapons from sticks?" she asked, her voice lilting with quiet amusement. Marcus grinned, holding up his creation. "You never know what you'll need out here. Primitive, maybe, but effective." She regarded him with that cool, feline detachment, head tilted. Your kind relies much on tools. We do, Marcus replied, not sure if it was a criticism or a compliment. Their pace slowed as midday heat thickened. At a fallen log, Marcus called for a break. He rummaged through his pack, producing a battered ration bar. Tearing open the wrapper, he broke off half and offered it to Syrah. She regarded the offering with a faintly wrinkled nose, then shook her head. Instead, she reached into a pouch at her side, withdrew a small glowing bead, and popped it into her mouth. The orb pulsed with soft light before dissolving on her tongue. Not hungry for that? Marcus asked, eyebrow raised. Syrah's lips curled in the faintest of smiles. I prefer what nourishes me, she replied, a note of wry humor slipping through. She chewed slowly, eyes half-lidded, as if savoring the bead's flavor. A silence settled, growing thick. Marcus fiddled with the spear, Syrah with her pouch. Only the distant calls of unseen creatures and the drone of insects filled the air. The gap between them felt as wide as the stars. Suddenly, Syrah's ears twitched, swiveling toward a distant rustle. Her body tensed, tail stilling. Marcus caught the signal. Danger. He rose, blaster in hand, every sense straining. The brush exploded. 3 tribal hunters burst forth, taller than Marcus, skin painted in fresh swirls of ochre. Spears gleamed in the filtered sunlight. The lead hunter snarled, baring needle-sharp teeth. Marcus moved instinctively, stepping in front of Syrah, weapon trained on the nearest threat. Back off! He barked, but his words meant nothing to them. Syrah surprised him. She strode forward, her posture regal, eyes flashing. She spoke in their language, the sounds clipped and commanding. The hunters hesitated, snarling, but did not lower their weapons. Marcus fired a warning shot into the ground. 2 hunters lunged. He dodged left, using his makeshift spear to parry one, the blaster's butt slamming into the second's jaw. The third darted past him toward Syrah. Syrah did not flinch. She extended her palm, touching the hunter's bare chest. Instantly, his body arched, muscles seizing in a fit of convulsions. He crumpled, twitching, eyes rolling back. The other 2 retreated, dragging their fallen companion, casting furious glances over their shoulders. Marcus watched, breathless. Syrah's expression, for the first time, softened with a hint of approval. You handle yourself, he said, nodding with genuine respect. Syrah dusted her hands, eyes lingering on the retreating hunters. I do what is necessary, she replied, voice low. By dusk, the sun's twin rays slanted gold and lavender through the trees. They found shelter beneath the arch of a fallen tree, roots clawing the earth like petrified fingers. Syrah sat, producing a small, battered device from her pouch. She turned it over in her hands, frustration flickering in her features. Marcus recognized the intricate circuitry, the cracked screen, a translator, damaged, but not beyond hope. He handed her his multi-tool without a word. Together they bent over the device. Marcus steadied the casing while Syrah worked slender fingers into the delicate innards, her touch deft. They exchanged only a few terse instructions, the rhythm of collaboration slowly replacing the awkwardness between them. A faint hum signaled life. The device glowed, lights dancing along its edge. Syrah raised her head, voice tentative and strangely melodic. Can you understand me now? Marcus's eyes widened, relief cascading over him. Yes, he breathed. Perfectly. For a moment, the weight of isolation lifted. Communication, real, unfiltered, settled between them like the first honest warmth of the fire. Syrah shifted closer, the translator humming quietly in her palm. I am an envoy, she began, her voice soft but steady. From the Orion Accord, 17 worlds, allied by treaty. My mission was diplomatic, a summit, but my ship was sabotaged, forced down. She looked away, pain flickering behind her eyes. These tribal aliens, they are not my people. do not belong to this world. Marcus listened, a frown creasing his brow. You were targeted? She nodded, fur bristling. Someone did not want the Accord to succeed. I was supposed to bring peace. He ran a hand through his hair, digesting the implications. So I rescued an ambassador, some first contact. Syrah's gaze sharpened, mingling surprise and curiosity. You risked yourself for a stranger, she observed, her tone thoughtful. Marcus's answer was simple, unflinching. It was the right thing to do. For a heartbeat, the air between them softened. The jungle's evening chorus rose, a backdrop to their shared silence. The temperature dropped quickly. Syrah shifted, hugging her arms to her chest. Nights here are cold, she said, glancing at him sidelong. It is customary to share warmth. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. He moved closer, shoulders brushing, his body heat mingling with hers. For the first time, their proximity was comfortable, the tension easing into something warmer, something almost tender. Syrah's tail curled around them both, her luminous eyes drifting shut. Marcus let himself relax, feeling her steady breathing beside him. Sleep crept in, gentle and slow, the exhaustion of the day washing over him. Just before he surrendered to dreams, Marcus's thoughts flickered back to Syrah's warning. Sabotage, pursuit, enemies. If she was a target, they were both still in danger. He listened to the night sounds with fresh unease, an arm draped protectively across his pack, and wondered how close those enemies truly were. Mist shrouded the river, swirling in cool tendrils around Marcus's boots as he knelt to tighten the straps on his pack. Across the bank, the world faded to pale green shadow, thick with secrets. Syrah stepped past him, her movement fluid, shedding her outer wrap with a practiced flick. The gesture revealed the full length of her wild, striped fur and the graceful sweep of her bushy tail, silver streaks catching the diffuse morning light. Marcus caught his breath, his pulse skipping, a spark of unexpected attraction flaring in his chest, sharpening all his senses despite the danger pressing in from every side. She glanced back at him, blue eyes bright with challenge and a hint of mischief. Are you ready, Marcus? She asked, her voice low and steady. Ready as I'll ever be, he replied, matching her gaze. The words came out a little rougher than he intended. They slipped into the water, the current cold and swift around their legs. Syrah led the way, agile and sure-footed, her tail streaming behind her like a living banner. Marcus followed, fighting the drag of his pack and the heavier gravity. Halfway across, his boot found no purchase. He stumbled, water surging up to his chest. A striped hand shot out. Syrah gripped his arm, impossibly strong and warm. For a second, their faces were only inches apart, breath mingling, the river's rush forgotten. Trust flickered between them, silent and fragile but very real. You have trouble with water, Earthman? Syrah teased, her lips curving. Not usually, he managed, squeezing her fingers in thanks. On the far bank they hauled themselves out, dripping and breathless. Marcus shook the water from his hair, shooting Syrah a look of wry embarrassment. She only grinned, a flash of white teeth beneath her dark muzzle, before turning to scan the dense undergrowth. The forest on this side pressed in even closer, roots and branches knotting the ground. Alien creatures rustled in the shadows. Ahead, a pale, scaled beast padded through the ferns, each movement deliberate and predatory. It was nearly the size of a horse, its rows of jagged teeth gleaming as it sniffed the air. Syrah pressed a warning hand to Marcus's chest, urging him still. They held their breath as the creature prowled by, its golden eyes slitting in suspicion, before it melted back into the mist. Syrah exhaled. Not all dangers here walk on two legs, she murmured. No argument from me, Marcus replied. They skirted wide, picking a careful path through the brush. Soon, Marcus spotted a flash of scorched metal through the trees. He knelt, bringing up his scanner. There, my ship, or what's left of it. Syrah crouched beside him, peering through the leaves. 5 tribal aliens ringed the crash site, their skin painted and bone ornaments rattling as they scavenged through the debris. The hull was split open, wires spilling like viscera, smoke still rising in thin threads. One guard paced near the old cargo hatch, spear in hand. Sierra's tail flicked in irritation. "Too many for a direct attack," Marcus nodded. "We split up, quietly. Take out the outer guards first, then regroup inside." She shot him an approving glance. "Try not to be loud." He grinned, heart pounding. "No promises." They separated, slipping through the undergrowth like shadows. Marcus circled right, flanking the pacing guard. He waited until the alien paused to examine a broken panel, then lunged, using his makeshift spear's butt to crack the guard across the temple. The alien dropped without a sound. Across the wreck, Sierra moved with predatory grace, sliding behind another guard. Her striped fingers brushed the alien's neck. He stiffened, convulsed, then crumpled at her feet. She met Marcus's eyes through the gloom, a fierce pride shining there. Inside the shattered hull, they regrouped. Sierra immediately scanned the twisted comm array, eyes bright with calculation. "Cover me," she said, kneeling by the exposed wires. Marcus braced himself by the door, blaster ready. He could hear the other scavengers moving outside, voices rising in argument as they discovered their missing comrades. Sierra's hands worked quickly, stripping a wire here, splicing a circuit there. She unscrewed the back of her translator, slotting in a chip from the comm array. The device flickered, then glowed a steady blue. "Almost there," she murmured. Marcus's heart hammered in his chest. He risked a glance outside. 2 more tribesmen prowled the perimeter, and a third was heading their way. "Make it fast," he hissed. A sharp pop announced the successful connection. Sierra snapped the translator closed, handed Marcus the comm interface. "Try now." He took a deep breath, punched in the distress code. Static crackled, then a faint signal pinged back. Distorted, but enough. "Mayday, Mayday. This is Lieutenant Marcus Hale, United Earth Exploration. Downed on hostile world. Coordinates attached. Request immediate extraction." Footsteps thundered outside. Sierra's ears flattened in warning. "They are coming." Marcus jammed the interface into his belt, grabbing Sierra's hand. "Maintenance hatch. This way." They ducked through the narrow crawl space, emerging into a tangle of roots behind the ship just as the aliens burst into the main cabin. Shouts erupted, spears clattered against metal. Sierra and Marcus plunged into the wilds, darting through the undergrowth as their pursuers gave chase. They ran until their lungs burned, feet pounding the soft earth. The moon rose, silver and immense, casting the world in sharp relief. In a clearing dappled with pale light, Sierra slowed, her breath ragged. Marcus reached for her, concern etched across his face. She turned, cupping his face in her hands. Her blue eyes glistened with gratitude, something deeper flickering beneath the surface. "You risked much, for me," she whispered. He shook his head, voice rough. "I couldn't have done it without you." For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them. Danger forgotten. The night wrapped around them like a secret. Marcus leaned in, drawn by a force older than logic. Their lips met, tentative at first, then urgent. A shock of warmth, electric and real, passing between them. Sierra's tail curled around his waist, her claws gentle against his skin. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless, changed in some fundamental way. Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "Whatever comes next, I'm with you." Sierra smiled, soft and wild. "And I with you." The sounds of the jungle pressed close, but the fear that had stalked them all day was gone, replaced by something fierce and bright, a bond forged in danger and trust. Marcus checked his scanner, heart still fluttering. "There's something west of here, a massive structure. Could be shelter, maybe even help." Sierra squeezed his hand. "Then we move." They slipped into the trees, side by side, the moon guiding them forward into whatever lay ahead. The jungle thickened as Marcus and Syrah pressed onward, the path narrowing beneath a riot of pulsing vines. Each stem radiated its own eerie light, shifting between violet, blue, and a strange, sickly gold. The air was thick, buzzing with energy, the ground spongy beneath their boots. Marcus kept his blaster close, every nerve on edge. Syrah paused by a moss-covered stone, her ears swiveling forward. She brushed away tangled roots, revealing a series of intricate glyphs etched deep into the rock. Her brow furrowed in concern, tail twitching. "These are ancient," she murmured, tracing the whorls with careful fingers. "Older than the tribes." Marcus leaned in, studying the markings. "What do they say?" She shook her head, eyes troubled. "Warnings, names. I recognize some Arathi script. This place is sacred or cursed." He reached out, touching her shoulder. "Should we keep going?" "We must," Syrah replied, voice tight with awe and dread. "If the tribes fear this place, it may be our best chance." The trees parted suddenly, revealing a clearing dominated by a towering ziggurat of gleaming obsidian. The structure rose in tiers, each step half swallowed by the hungry jungle. Vines crept up its flanks, flowers glowing against the black stone. It was both beautiful and forbidding, the air around it thick with old secrets. Syrah halted, breathless, her fur bristling. "Arathi. This is one of their temples. I have only seen images, never in life." Marcus stared up, feeling dwarfed. "Looks sturdy enough." She shot him a look, half annoyed, half amused. "It has stood for millennia. Come." They climbed broken steps, their boots echoing on polished stone. At the summit, a passage yawned open, exhaling cold, musty air. Inside, the darkness was alive with memory. Relics lined the halls, crystals humming with inner light, floating orbs drifting lazily above pedestals, strange devices whose purpose Marcus could only guess. Syrah's hands hovered over a display of faceted gems, reverence in her touch. Arathi technology, still active after all this time. Incredible. Marcus trailed after her, wary. "Let's not trigger any alarms." They moved deeper into the labyrinth, guided by Syrah's quick study of the glyphs. At the temple's core, a chamber opened before them, vast and circular. In its center floated a dais, above which shimmered a holographic star map. Worlds spun in miniature orbits, nebulae pulsed with colored light. Syrah approached the dais, her fingers dancing over the controls. The map shifted, zooming in on a blue-green planet. "My home world," she whispered, voice thick with longing. Marcus watched her, heart twisting. "You'll get back," he promised. "We both will." Before she could answer, a low, rhythmic drumming began to echo through the corridors. First distant, then growing louder. The walls trembled, shadows flickered beyond the chamber entrance. "They've found us," Marcus said, voice tight. Syrah's ears flattened. "I'll try the comm terminal. Get a message out. Hold them off." He nodded, planting himself between the dais and the only exit, spear and blaster ready. The tribesmen burst into the chamber in a flood, painted skin, bone weapons, war cries splitting the air. Marcus fought with relentless precision, each movement honed by years of survival. His spear flashed, parrying a blow, then sweeping a warrior's legs from beneath him. He fired a warning shot. Another went down. A spear caught him in the side, sharp pain lancing through his ribs. Marcus grunted, knees nearly buckling. Blood seeped through his shirt. Syrah spun at the sound, panic flashing across her face. She dashed to his side, tail curling around him protectively. From her pouch, she produced a vial of shimmering salve, smearing it over the wound. Her fingers trembled as she worked. "Stay with me, Marcus," she pleaded, her voice breaking. He gripped her wrist, forcing a smile. "You're not rid of me yet." The salve worked fast, heat searing through his flesh, pain fading. Marcus caught her gaze, saw the raw emotion there. He pressed his forehead to hers, their breaths mingling, the world narrowing to just them for one fragile heartbeat. "Thank you," he whispered. She squeezed his hand, resolve hardening. "We stand together." He staggered upright, weapon ready. Syrah sprinted back to the ancient comm terminal, fingers flying over the controls. "Transmitter's old, but I can amplify with the Arathi grid. Keep them back." Marcus grinned, blood smeared and wild. "Let's give them a fight." The next wave crashed through the door. Marcus used the narrow choke point, picking off attackers one by one, spear and blaster moving in concert. Syrah's voice rose above the chaos, chanting in Arathi, her words weaving with the hum of the machine. A pulse of energy shuddered through the chamber as the transmitter came online. Syrah slammed her palm against the console, sending their desperate plea spiraling into the void. "To any Accord vessel, this is Syrah of Orion. Temple coordinates attached. Hostile forces on site. Immediate assistance required. Repeat, immediate assistance." The tribesmen breached the dais, howling with fury. Syrah grabbed Marcus, hauling him behind a pillar as spears thunked into stone. But suddenly the air changed. A chill swept the chamber. The flames in the sconces guttered, then surged, casting long, unnatural shadows. From the upper galleries, shapes emerged. Tall, ethereal beings with translucent skin and flickering, luminous eyes. They moved without sound, robes trailing like mist, their presence warping the very air. The tribesmen recoiled in terror, dropping their weapons. Marcus stared, cold sweat pricking his skin. Syrah's voice was a whisper. "Ghostly manipulators." Arathi legends called them the Shapers. No one believed they still existed. The Shapers raised their hands, and the temple itself shuddered, stone groaning, relics trembling in their mounts. A wave of power rolled through the chamber, slamming Marcus and Syrah against the wall. Marcus struggled to rise, gritting his teeth. "New plan?" Syrah's eyes blazed. "We survive. Together." The temple thundered as the manipulative aliens unleashed their power, the future of all three species suddenly hanging in the balance. Thunder split the sky, shattering the thick silence above the jungle as rescue craft screamed down through roiling clouds. Energy beams lanced from their hulls, cutting through the gloom in dazzling arcs. The temple grounds erupted into chaos. Tribesmen scattered in all directions, caught between the withering precision of human fire and the eerie, intangible presence of the manipulators. The spectral beings, so recently triumphant, wavered in the glow, their outlines flickering like candle flame. With a single, unearthly pulse, they dissolved into nothing, their schemes foiled for now, leaving only the faintest chill behind. Marcus staggered to the shattered entryway, blood crusted at his temple, blaster in hand. Syrah was at his side, her breath rapid but steady, blue eyes wide with adrenaline. The obsidian ziggurat trembled under the rescue ship's downdraft, ancient stones groaning as if waking from a long nightmare. A squad of armored rescuers swept in, weapons raised. "Lieutenant Hale!" a voice barked through the comm. "We have you! Stand down!" Marcus lowered his blaster, relief flooding him. "You took your time," he called, managing a crooked smile. Syrah gripped his arm, her claws digging in just enough to ground him. "Are they your people?" He nodded, squeezing her hand. "They are, and now so are you." Soon, the temple's battered nave filled with the rumble of boots and the low murmur of translators. Accord envoys, their uniforms bearing the sigils of 17 worlds, arrived in a flotilla of sleek shuttles. Earth's representatives followed, their presence formal, yet shaken by the sight of so much destruction and the unknown technology humming in every corner. Where relics and shadows had ruled moments before, now there were tables mapped with star charts, diplomats hunched over ancient consoles, and engineers coaxing the transmitter to life. The transmitter, repaired under Syrah's guidance, sparked and whined, then glowed a brilliant emerald. Its signal leapt across parsecs, binding worlds, and sounding a warning. Danger had come not just from tribal spears, but from something older, more cunning, lurking in the space between. In the days that followed, the battered ziggurat became a meeting ground. Accord envoys conferred with tribal leaders in uneasy truce, the language barrier bridged by the very device that had saved Marcus and Syrah's lives. Earth's delegations set up temporary command, their data feeds buzzing with the story of the spectral manipulators and the dangers they posed. Marcus sat through endless debriefs, each question sharper than the last. How had he survived? What did he know of the Arathi, of the tribe's motives? Each time, he met Syrah's gaze across the chamber, drawing strength from her presence. One evening, as stormlight flickered beyond the fractured arches, a gathering was called. The highest Accord official, a stooped, silver-scaled Narration, addressed the assembly. "We are all changed by what has transpired," she intoned. "Let this temple become a beacon, not a tomb. Let those who risked all for peace lead us forward." A ripple of agreement passed through the envoys. Earth's chief delegate, tall and grave, turned to Marcus. "Lieutenant Hale, by unanimous decision, you are to be named Earth's liaison to the Accord." Marcus blinked, caught off guard. "Me? You survived. You acted with courage, diplomacy, and trust. No one is better suited," the delegate insisted. Syrah stepped forward, striped fur gleaming in the golden light, eyes shining with quiet pride. The Narration official beckoned her to the dais. "Syrah of Orion, for your wisdom and valor, we appoint you ambassador, voice of peace for your people and ours." Syrah bowed, her tail swishing. Her gaze found Marcus's, warm and unguarded. "We began as strangers," she said quietly, "but we end as allies, and something more." The crowd applauded, a dozen languages blending into a single song of hope. Later, the din faded. Marcus and Syrah found a quiet spot beneath a crumbling arch, the air scented with rain and moss. Torches flickered, casting long shadows. Marcus watched Syrah, heart aching at the memory of danger and at the quiet miracle that had brought them here. He reached for her, brushing his fingers along her cheek. Her fur was impossibly soft, her warmth grounding him in the present. Syrah leaned into his touch, her tail curling around his waist, a gesture of trust and affection that needed no translation. Marcus smiled. "When I crashed here, I never thought I'd find a reason to stay." Syrah's lips curled in gentle amusement. "You did not just find a reason, you found a home." Her voice was low, melodic, trembling with emotion. He drew her closer, their hands entwined, and pressed his forehead to hers. "After everything, are you sure you still want to trust a reckless Earthman?" She laughed softly, blue eyes aglow. "You risked your life for me, for all of us. I trust you with everything." Marcus's thumb traced the line of her jaw. Their lips met, a deeper, more certain kiss, fierce and sweet. The promise in it was unmistakable. Not just survival, not just alliance, but unity. A future forged from pain and hope. Syrah's tail tightened around him, her claws gentle against his back. She whispered, "We are stronger together." He nodded, feeling her heartbeat in time with his. The temple around them, once a place of darkness and fear, now hummed with the promise of new beginnings. As the night settled and the world beyond the arches waited, Marcus and Syrah sat close, hands entwined, hearts certain. Whatever dangers might come, they would face them as one. As peace talks began, the ancient temple bustled with the pulse of possibility. Dawn filtered through fractured arches, throwing motes of gold onto stone corridors where once only shadows dwelled. Delegates moved purposefully, humans in crisp navy jackets, Arathi in robes that shimmered with bioluminescent thread, even tribal elders marked with ochre and bone, now welcomed as guests. Arguments and laughter echoed from council chambers carved into black obsidian, words translated on the fly by devices born of necessity and alliance. Marcus moved through the swirl with a steady presence, his bearing both formal and approachable. He shook hands with Earth's admirals, nodded to Arathi matriarchs, and knelt to greet the youngest of the tribes with genuine respect. At every turn, Sira was by his side, her striped fur and glowing eyes a beacon, her voice soft but unwavering as she mediated disputes or calmed nerves. Where Marcus's stubborn resolve threatened to ignite tempers, Sira's empathy soothed. Where her idealism faltered under old wounds, Marcus's unyielding optimism lifted her again. In the main hall, a star map flickered above a dais, updated with every new agreement. Delegates debated borders and trade, exchanged stories, planned joint patrols against the threat of the manipulators. Yet in the spaces between, it was clear. The true progress was less about territory and more about trust. Sira addressed the assembly, her words translated into a dozen tongues. "We have seen the danger of division," she said, standing tall beside Marcus. "Now we choose to stand together, not as conquerors or rivals, but as partners. Let this place, scarred by violence, become a cradle for peace." Marcus added, "We owe our survival to each other. Every difference that once divided us became our greatest strength. Let's make sure the past does not repeat itself." Applause rippled through the crowd, hope glimmering in the eyes of diplomats and warriors alike. But the process was not easy. Old prejudices surfaced. A human scientist bristled at the tribal chief's reluctance to share sacred knowledge. An Arathi engineer balked at a proposed weapons exchange. Marcus and Sira intervened again and again, sometimes firm, sometimes gentle. In a shadowed alcove, Marcus found Sira nursing a headache, her ears flat. He knelt beside her, worry in his gaze. "Too much talk? Not enough understanding?" he asked softly. She managed a weary smile. "Words cannot always bridge what history has broken." He brushed her cheek, his touch gentle. "You're building something bigger than history. You're building tomorrow." Her eyes softened. "Only because you walk with me." They leaned into each other, drawing strength from their shared struggle. Later, as night cloaked the jungle in velvet darkness, the temple's bustle faded. Most delegates retired to their makeshift quarters, exhausted but hopeful. Only the soft hum of the transmitter, relaying news of fragile peace to distant worlds, broke the stillness. Marcus and Sira slipped away, out onto a balcony high above the jungle floor. The air was cool, tinged with the scent of rain and blooming night flowers. They sat side by side on ancient stone, feet dangling over the edge, the city of tents and shuttles below a constellation of restless lights. Sira pressed close, head resting on Marcus's shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her, drawing her into a protective embrace. "Does it ever stop feeling like a dream?" she whispered, voice small in the hush. Marcus gazed up at the stars. "If it is, I don't want to wake up." He looked at her, his expression open. "After everything, crashes, chases, ghostly manipulators, I never thought we'd end up here." "Not like this." She traced a finger along his jaw, her claws barely grazing his skin. "Not all dreams are safe, or simple." She hesitated, searching his eyes. "But I want this one. I want you." Marcus cupped her cheek, thumb brushing the delicate fur beneath her eye. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." She leaned into his touch, letting herself believe it. For the first time in days, the tension melted from her shoulders. Her tail curled around his waist, a silent confession of trust. Their lips met in a kiss, slow and deep, the noise of the world falling away. His hands soothed her lingering fears, tracing the old scars beneath her fur. She answered with gentle touches, her healing presence mending wounds he didn't know he carried. They held each other tightly, the space between them quiet but profound, a promise of new beginnings written not in words, but in breath and heartbeat. They stayed that way for a long while, watching the first hints of dawn shimmer on the horizon. The temple glowed in the pale light, its ancient stones bearing witness to an alliance born from chaos and courage. Far below, the jungle stirred, birds calling out in wild chorus, as if to greet the fragile hope now blooming among the ruins. Syrah pulled back to meet Marcus's gaze. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" she asked, a nervous tremor in her voice. He smiled, brushing her hair from her eyes. "Every day. But whatever it is, we face it together." She nodded, confidence blooming in her eyes. "Together," she echoed, her voice sure. They rose as the sun crested the trees, painting the world in gold. Side by side, they walked back toward the hall, ambassador and liaison, partners in every sense. The delegates would need them, the future would test them, but their bond would be the foundation on which everything else was built. Outside, hope filled the air as surely as birdsong. Two souls, one human, one striped-furred envoy, stood united on ancient stone. Their destinies, once worlds apart, now intertwined beyond unmaking. In their love, born from chaos and difference, the promise of a new era shone bright. The future was uncertain, but together, Marcus and Syrah faced it, living proof that compassion could bridge not only worlds, but hearts, and shape the fate of stars. Our story ends here. If you'd like to support us, you can use the Super Thanks button right under the video to leave a tip. It truly helps our team improve the quality of our work. We're grateful to each and every subscriber for being with us. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.